Welcome to Things I Can't Say, the podcast for the things parents whisper, not post. I'm Annie, a parent who's walked through the quiet, lonely hallways of raising a child with traits that don't fit neatly into any of the parenting books, or on anyone's social media feed either. Each week we'll open the door to stories that rarely get told out loud. I'll start with mine, and then you'll hear from other parents, mental health professionals, and people who know what it means to live in the gray instead of the black and white. This is a place where shame loses its power, where complexity isn't feared but explored, and where love doesn't have to be easy in order to be real. If you've ever felt like no one else could possibly understand, you're not alone here. This is Things I Can't Say, and I am so glad you're here. Do I feel guilty? Do I look back on how I handled things and wish I would have done it differently? Do I feel like I missed things or no, I don't. Waterboarding is a form of torture for a reason, and that is what I feel like I lived through for so long. Just this constant drip of water on my face where you can't rest. Your brain can only handle so many things at one time before you lose the ability to even make wise decisions anymore, before you can even think or breathe anymore. In the midst of all of this, it's not just that we have this one troubled child. We have 4 children. Our oldest is struggling with her mental health in the beginning of this. Then she is moving out, getting engaged, getting married, buying a house, all of these things happening for her. Our second son is graduating from high school, leaving for college, joining the military, going overseas in the middle of all of this. Our youngest joined our family during all of this, has so much trauma. There is so much happening for this little girl that we are dealing with. My husband is working 50 to 60 hours a week. I am a children's ministries director working 30 hours a week, run my own business as a doula and a doula agency owner. We are drowning, literally drowning in the amount of things happening. Just in regular life, there is so much happening. And then we have this constant layer of stress that never, ever ends. I remember one very specific evening, which in my mind, and I'm not 100% certain on the timeline of events, but I believe this was the last time our son did anything to our daughter. My husband was home with the children. We were living at the camp at the time, and I was at my office. So I was about 45 minutes away from home. And I got a phone call from my husband that I needed to come home right away. And he gave me a brief synopsis of what was happening at home. And I remember my whole body simply shutting down and packing up my stuff and getting in the car and driving home. And I vividly recall driving past every telephone pole and just wanting to drive into it. Every tree, every barrier. I just wanted to drive into, I thought about every single one. Not that I actually was going to. I didn't really want to end things, but the thought of ending things sounded more pleasant, more doable than going home and dealing with what I knew I was about to deal with. I knew what was coming for me was worse than ending things. I couldn't do that to my husband, couldn't do it to my children, but I did not want to do what I knew was coming next. It wasn't the first time I felt that way, wasn't the last time I felt that way. It was a terrible feeling. That was a night that my husband came around a corner and found our children in a compromising position, grabbed our son, pulled him off of our daughter, away from our daughter. When the kids were confronted separately, they both had the exact same story that made our son innocent in the whole thing, which did not match up with what my husband saw, which again makes you feel crazy. You feel crazy because there is something wrong. You know there is something happening, but you have zero evidence, zero proof, nothing that anyone is going to listen to that is going to get your family help. And for every person who has said to me, well, you can just sign over your rights. Like, it's bad, just sign over your rights. You can just give your child up. It does not work that way. I walked beside a family as they did that. They had an adopted daughter who harmed her siblings, and they chose to give up their rights to her. And I sat with them in the CPS office while they went through that process, and it was ugly. The conversations that happened were awful, as the accusations of abuse and neglect and what happens when you do that is not just you give up your kid and you're innocent. You are accused of child abandonment. Your custody of your other child is in question. It's not simple. It's not set up to be simple. It's ugly. And we knew that. We were stuck in this place of being waterboarded every day in the ocean, drowning, while agencies and people and community stood on the shore and watched us drown, asking from the shore what they could do to help. We didn't have an answer for that. We were actively drowning. There was no energy to tell people what to do. We often had no idea what people could do. We didn't have the answers. We just needed help. And there was none. Even when we had the strongest team available to us, people didn't have the answers because we were dealing with things that were so far outside of the norm, things that didn't make sense. And it was every single day, nonstop in our home. I give myself grace for that. I understand that in those moments, I was doing the best that I could. I was doing the best that I could. I was eating and I was sleeping and I was caring for my children and I was loving my children. And during parts of it, my marriage was falling apart to a point where I thought we were getting divorced. I this was the hardest thing I've ever been through. Without a shadow of a doubt, I can't fathom anything harder. I have grace for me. And if other people don't, that's okay. I don't expect that from others. I I do know that the professionals who were closest to us during everything know and have supported everything that we have done. I will never forget a couple of months into our son's inpatient stay when his therapist looked at me and said, "You do know that most parents would have given up by now, right?" I can't tell you how much I needed to hear that. How much I needed to know that I had gone above and beyond what most parents would be expected to do for their child, even though it felt like I was failing every single day because nothing was working. I tried everything and nothing was working. Grace. I have grace for me. I am not an expert on mental illness. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm not a corrections officer. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a parent who loves my children, and I did the very best that I could for the children in my home. I know that. And if they later have feelings about how I did as a parent, they get to express that to me and we get to talk about it. But they are the only ones that I owe an answer to. I don't owe that to anyone else. Grace upon grace upon grace upon grace. I give that to other people, and I will give it to myself. Take care of you, okay? Thanks for being here, listening, feeling, and sitting with the hard stuff. If you've ever whispered a story like mine, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave me a message at mombehindthescenes.com because every story told gives someone else permission to share theirs. This is Things I Can't Say, the podcast for things you whisper, not post. Until next time, take care of yourself.